Bobby, thanks so much for coming back to join me today. Really appreciate it.
It's great to be with you, Billy.
All right, so today's topic is a little different. We were talking about the app in general, and now we're talking about Life.Church holding virtual reality church services. Now, this is kind of a new thing. I mean, I've known about VR, but for me, this idea of having this sort of universe in which you could do this is super fascinating. Can you just take us through what Life.Church has been experimenting with?
Yeah, so actually, this dates back quite a ways. The technology has kind of changed a little bit over time, but we back in 2007, we built what was kind of a virtual church environment in a 3D space called Second Life. For people who aren't familiar with it, it resembles that of a video game. If anybody's seen Minecraft or Roblox or have kids that play those games, they're kind of environments that you can that are immersive. You can sort of go in them, build things, move around inside of it, and you have avatars. Each person that's in it has kind of a different character or person or something that represents them in that space. So in Second Life, back in 2007, we built a church environment, and we had services where you could watch teaching, video teaching, you could have interaction, you could pray with people, we'd had volunteers. We actually shaped the environment to look just like one of our physical church buildings. And we had a great response. The challenge back then was the technology was pretty limited. And it really struggled when you had more than 70 or 80 people in the church at a time. It would just bog down and the technology couldn't keep up. And
so there were no virtual mega churches at that point.
I wasn't aware of any virtual churches or any virtual mega churches at that point. And the experience is a little bit different in that you just watch it through a computer screen, much like you would watch if you're playing Roblox or Minecraft, one of those games on a tablet or a computer screen. Today, as the technology has changed and advanced, now there are kind of multiple ways to be in those same types of environments, and the quality of the environments and the technology underlying the environment is improved to where now you can also put on VR goggles, which are essentially kind of like a glasses or goggles that you put on that basically give you the sensation of being inside of the environment. So if you turn to your left, you see a wall on the left and a person in front of you and a wall on the right. That kind of just puts you kind of in the space. And as you move around with your body, you're actually moving around in the space. Virtual reality would be the terminology used for it today. So you can interface with that type of environment using that technology, or you can still just use a computer or a tablet and kind of navigate around much like you would in a video game. But it's real people that are, in a virtual environment using kind of virtual representations of themselves, like a character or an avatar is really what the environment looks like.
It's interesting because obviously, you're going to hear a lot of people, and I'm sure you've heard this, especially in light of the fact that so much of what you guys have done has been really innovative with tech, but who will say, oh, no, we don't want people online doing this. We want people going to church. What would you say to those people? Why is it important to find ways like this to engage with people that might be different and outside of the norm?
Yeah, I mean, we've always taken the approach as a church that we'll do, or to reach people that no one's reaching, you're going to have to do some things that no one else is doing. And there are many people that are spending time online, as we know that, spending time in these types of environments, online. And so our purpose in doing it is actually take the church to environments where people are, not to try to pull people from the church into different environments, but to try to take the church to the environments where people are is
Right.
really the main point. As far as whether it's real church or should I come to church physically or not, I think the pandemic was maybe just a good eye opener for everyone at the potential of being able to do online community. And I'm not saying that it is something that everybody wants to do or should do. I'm just saying that there are real meaningful ways that we can use technology. Even this interview that we're doing right now is obviously being used, leveraging technology to facilitate it. That gives us opportunities that we didn't have before. Some people, I think, will do a hybrid approach where they'll do some of their experiences in community will be in an online context, and much will be in a physical environment. Some will do physical only. But most people today have some kind of blend that they're doing. I mean, they may work in a physical environment, they may go to church in a physical environment, and they may talk to their grandkids or engage with others, that other friends or distant relatives or friends from high school or college or something in a virtual environment. So
Yeah.
we kind of have this hybrid approach, and so I think that's what we see for the church as well. It's not a one size fits all or an only one approach. There's real interaction, a real community that's taking place in virtual spaces, and we want the church to be there.
Right. And what would you do? I mean, think about the pandemic. If we didn't have technology, if we didn't have these tools, which, like anything, there's good and bad, right, to every tool. But if we didn't have them, we would have been in big trouble when it came to church. We would have been in big trouble when it came to communication with one another. And there's also the factor, and I think you were just speaking to this, but there are people who may never enter a church who are using these virtual reality technologies who you can reach by engaging. If you don't ever engage and don't ever bring the gospel to them, as you were saying, then how are you going to reach these other groups of people who, again, are not going into a physical church? So that's really interesting. And I know that you held, I believe, two of these church services on Microsoft's AltSpace platform. What were some of the results of that you saw?
Yeah, we had I think we've actually had 3 weeks now that we've done it, 3 weekends, that we've held services. The second weekend we had 97 people that came and visited for part of the service. We had two people that actually made indications that they wanted to become followers of Jesus, and we kind of took them through a follow-up process with that. This last weekend was our third week. I think we had almost 300 people that attended the
Wow.
service. We had another person that made a decision to follow Jesus, which is a real emphasis for our church and how we do ministry. And so I mean, we're seeing some growth. We're seeing some positive results. It's definitely a different environment, but it has some benefits. It has some things that are kind of unique to those environments that I think ministries will appreciate. But it's also an experiment. It's a tool that we're trying to learn from. We're definitely not claiming we have it figured out, and in fact, that even the medium even that we're doing it in may change. Meaning that particular platform is available right now, and we're able to leverage it. But there's new like technology platforms emerging in the same space that might have different capabilities and different features. And so we just kind of at this point want to learn what we can so that we're better prepared as a church to do ministry in these spaces in the future.
All right, so let me ask a silly question because it is silly. But when you go, when somebody, let's say they're using goggles or whatever, they're watching this, they're actually watching, you know, Craig, the pastor, preach. And is there praise and worship in this as well? How does it look for somebody entering
Yeah.
into it? Because I know there's people watching who have never tried the metaverse or virtual reality at all.
Yeah, well, I think we've got some visuals that we can certainly show people that sometimes help. Like all of a sudden they can see a picture of what it looks like, and it makes more sense to them than just describing it with words. So we can send those to you, and you can show them to your viewers for sure. But to answer your question, right now the way that we do it, and it can be done multiple different ways, is we have basically a theater style venue that is a part of AltSpace VR, which is that platform that you mentioned that we're using. And in that theater style venue, people actually go and they sit down with their avatar and they are watching on screen both worship music, and video teaching. So it's kind of the same video experience on the screen that you would see if you came to one of our church online services. The difference is that you're like looking through the lens of an avatar sitting in a seat inside of a physical room. You can turn around and see the people sitting next to you. You can have conversations with them. You can walk around the environment after church or before church and talk to people kind of in a lobby or outside and just have conversations one-on-one. So there's a few different dynamics to it that are a little bit different. But you could, without using video, you could still have a preacher, for example, that was an avatar standing in front of that group of people, and you could hear them speak and deliver a message using an avatar. That would be a different way of
Yeah.
doing it. It's not what we do, but it's just an example of like there's lots of flexibility with how you might approach it.
It's so interesting to me, and the fact that you've had people. First of all, your numbers have grown over the 3 weeks, and you've had people come to the Lord. That's really, really compelling. What is next for you guys with this? Do you have solid plans? You mentioned things may change with the platform you're using. Are you testing? I'm just curious what your future plans are here.
Yeah, we're basically we're going to continue to do the services that we're doing on Alt Space VR for the meantime. We're going to kind of be able to see, I think, what the capacity of the technology is as we grow, and hopefully we won't reach limits, but we'll see, what the capabilities are. And then as new platforms are emerging, I mean, Facebook is beta testing a platform. We're kind of exploring, okay, what does it look like if we try to do it in these other environments? What's the technology hurdles? What are the features that those platforms have? So it's the time of discovery right now. Really, we don't have a definitive kind of plan and roadmap of we're going to be on this by this time and this by this time, as much as our team is investing some of our resources and some of our time in exploration of these tools to see how we can leverage them. And in the meantime, we're also like learning and trying to learn like what ministry looks like and what's unique about it, and then sharing those learnings and making sure that our volunteer teams and our staff are kind of being better equipped and understanding it. For example, one of the things that we learned from Second Life years ago is that when people have an avatar, when you can't see them physically, but they're kind of have a different physical representation of themselves in these environments, they're much more willing to talk about intimate things of the heart, much more quickly in a conversation than we would face to face in real life or in person. And the thinking behind that is when we have a physical facade, we feel more comfortable, you know, letting that emotional facade or that spiritual facade kind of come down to have that
Sure.
conversation. When we're in person, it's the opposite. When you don't have anything to hide from physically, we tend to put up sometimes emotional facades or facades. We don't let people on the inside because they can see us, and how we're talking. So what some people think is a big concern, like the anonymity of it or the fact that I can't see the person's actual face or see who they are, is in some ways a ministry benefit because it lets you get kind of to heart issues quicker because people aren't hung up over appearance or over the fact that you can see me. So just things like that are the things we're trying to learn and discuss and see how we can grow in ministry.
Well, that's incredible. And you'll have to come back and share with us as you go what you learn, any milestones or benchmarks. This is really interesting. It's different. And I think, you guys are, as always, paving the way forward in a really unique and interesting way. And appreciate you coming on to share with us today.
Thank you, Billy, so much. We're humbled to be a part of it, excited to be able to do it, and hope that other churches will continue to learn with us. We can't wait to join arms with them as we try to reach people wherever they are.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.